Okay, so today we're going to be looking at the optimal solution for longest substring without repeating characters. So let's go ahead and jump into this here. So the idea that we want to kind of implement here is we want to go through the list and check to see if we've already come across a character that we've already seen. So for example, if we're going through the list here, we have A, B, C, and then once we hit A, we update the longest substring that we've seen so far, consists of this ABC, which would be length 3, and then we update our starting point to now be this index rather than starting at A here. So let's go ahead and do that. So we can create a scene character map, which is just a dictionary in Python, and then we could do something like longest substring length, and this is the final length that we would actually return at the end of all of this. And our starting index is going to be 0, because we do want to start at the first point here and then gradually move forward, checking each point. So we can say for index in, well, actually what might be easier is to do for index and character. So for each index and that character in, we can do an enumeration here, enumerate through S. So Python gives us this wonderful enumerate function. If you didn't have Python, then you would have to write everywhere that you see character, you would essentially have to write S and then index everywhere you see character. But this enumerate kind of cleans up our code and makes it a little more readable here. So then we can check if the current character is inside our scene character map here. And also the starting index is less than or equal to the scene character map at that particular character. So if this condition is true, then what we want to do is update our starting index to be equal to that new index. And then +1. The reason for this +1 is because the index are 0-based. So as we're looping through, the starting index is 0 here, but what we want to do is we want to actually update that. So now we can say otherwise if it's not, if that condition is not met where the character is inside our character map and also the starting index is less than or equal to the scene character map. Otherwise we want to set our current substring length, and that's just going to be equal to our current index, and then we want to subtract our starting index and finally add 1. This here, so if you think about this here, so the index, the current index that we're on right now, if we look at example 1, the current index that we're on is 0, and also our starting index is 0. But the current substring length is not 0. The current substring length is 1 at this case. So that's why we want to update this to 1. If we consider this example here, the current index that we are on is 1, and the starting index is 0. So our current substring length is going to be 1 minus 0 plus 1, or 2, which gives us that length of the current substring. So now we also want to find out the longest substring length, which is just going to be equal to the max of the two. So the max of the longest, the current longest substring length and also the current substring length. Okay, and then also once we go through these conditions, we definitely want to update our scene character map to include the current character that we're on and also its index, so we know what is going on when we see those characters. And finally, we want to return the longest substring length. So if we run through this real quick, our scene character map at this point we can say is empty, longest substring length is 0, starting index is 0. So now let's look at example 1. For each index and character in our string, we want to check, is our current character, so now we're at A, is that character inside our scene character map? No, it's not. So our current substring length is going to be equal to the index, which our index is 0, our starting index is also 0, plus 1. So our current substring length is 1. Our longest substring length is the max of longest substring length, which is 0 at this point, and also our current. So the max of 0 and the max of 0 and 1. So now our longest substring length is 1. Then we want to update our scene character map to include the current character we're on, which is A, and its index. Then what we do is we iterate to the next value here, B. So is B in our scene character map? It is not. So then we update the current substring length because now we're clever enough to recognize that we're looking at this character here, but we're really looking at this substring here. So we update the current substring length, we update the longest substring length, so now this is 2, we add it to our character map, and if we go on all the way to here, now we see that A, which is our next character, A is inside our scene character map and our starting index is less than or equal to our scene character map at that character. What this means is our starting index is 0 and our scene character map at that character is greater than 0. So what we want to do is update our starting index to be equal to our scene character map at that character plus 1. So now we would be moving up here and continuing to go through. So we can go ahead and run this. And this is going to be the most optimal solution here. It's simple. It uses a hash map and then just a little bit of cleverness to figure out the current substring length and the longest substring length.